Welcome to Hustles Haboobs, the podcast where we dive headfirst into the stories of Arizona's most inspiring business owners. I'm your host, Amanda Miller, and I'm so excited you're here. I feel lucky to get to share the inspiring stories of these hometown heroes. Get ready to learn how they navigate the haboobs of entrepreneurship, chase their dreams, and build something incredible right here in the Grand Canyon State. Let's hustle. Hey, Ian, thanks so much for joining today on Hustles and Haboobs. How are you doing?
Doing great, Amanda. It's great to be here.
Great. So I want to make sure that everyone gets an opportunity to hear the conversation. But before we get going, I did want to ask you to just share, the name of your business, what you do, and how people can get a hold of you. And then we'll jump right in.
Sure. My name's Ian Shere. Just so you know, I'm not from here originally. I'm originally from New Zealand. Been over here since 2009. My company is called Citrus Kiwi Web Solutions, and it's kind of does what it sounds like. It does web solutions. So we try to take care of all your web design, web development, digital real estate needs and keep them all in one place so you've just got one phone call to make. You can find us on the web at citruskiwi.com, and that's citrus like oranges and lemons and kiwi like kiwi fruit. Or you can give us a call on 916-849-7325 and you'll get directly through to me.
Awesome. I love it. I thought I detected a slight accent there, so thanks for letting us know that you're not originally from here.
Yeah,
love
or
it.
Australia. Don't say Australia.
No. Very, very different places.
Yes.
I was on a cruise recently back in July. It was an Alaskan cruise, but our cruise director was from New Zealand. And so there were him and the assistant cruise director. They did this bit where he would, kind of joke and say, "Oh yeah, and he's from that big island with all the kangaroos." And he's like,
Yeah.
"No, that's not where I'm from at all." So it was kind of funny every morning on their little 5 a.m. show. Well, let's jump in because, man, Ian, when we initially spoke, I was so kind of enthralled by some of the things that you shared about your business journey, some of the insights that you shared. And one of the things that I want to jump into first, so something that we do here on Hustles and Haboobs is always ask, what's your favorite restaurant here in Arizona? But you mentioned being a bit of a coffee and wine snob with this ridiculously expensive, that's a quote, coffee machine. And so, I'm wondering if that discerning taste kind of feeds into your restaurant choices as well, and wondered, what's your favorite spot to eat here in Arizona?
Yeah, the problem is, and it's a good problem to have, I'm married to a wife who cooks really, really well. In fact, when she says, "Hey, can you do dinner tonight?" I'm going, "Oh, crud."
You're like, I don't want to eat my food.
Yeah, I hope I live up to the standard, because she sets a very high bar. We've got one close by called the Saigon Kitchen.
Okay.
We've been going there since before we bought the house here in 2013. So we've been going there for a long time. And Dennis, if you happen to be watching, appreciate your food. Great food. On the other side of the water, if you like, there's a French restaurant called Vincent's, which is down in kind of the Scottsdale, it's East Phoenix area. And they do some great food there, and they have some really, really good wines. So those are probably two favorite ones.
All right. Awesome. So Saigon Kitchen, and that's down in Tucson, right?
No, this is just in Bell Road here in Surprise in
Surprise.
Phoenix.
Okay. Okay, that's right. So I'm in Mesa, so everything on everything outside of the East Valley is, is real
Tucson.
far out there. Yeah, it's Tucson, right? It's either Tucson or California.
Yeah.
No, that's really, so Saigon Kitchen, I haven't heard of that, but I'm gonna have to give it a shot. I'm developing a really nice list of places I'm gonna get to try,
I bet.
which is really cool. All right. Well, so thanks for sharing that, and those two places, Saigon Kitchen and Vincent's, which we'll all have to try. But so you talked about on your journey of entrepreneurship, really finding the why behind your business to drive success. What rituals or routines really help you stay grounded and connected to your purpose each day? And what's your why? So you did mention being really connected to helping small businesses and really focused around that that demographic, which is super awesome. But so how do you stay really connected to that why? Are there any routines or things that you do that help you kind of remember, like, this is why I'm doing it when things get tough?
Yeah, I really do. It's really that, Amanda. I just have to remember, why am I doing it? Well, I'm doing it because both my wife and I, we are 100% believers in that any economy, be it ours here in the States, back home in New Zealand, Australia, in the land of kangaroos and the Big Island, or wherever it is, no country survives on the big companies like Microsoft or GM or, name a big company here. If all those companies went away, yes, there'd be obviously a lot of people out of work, but the economy's not going to collapse. If all the little mum and pop shops, the 10 employees and less, if they all went away, the country will collapse. And there's absolutely no doubt about that. So we don't want to be living in a country which has an economic collapse. So it's not really a fear thing, but we understand that those people, the mum and pops, they put their lives, not just, a few hours a week like the big execs do. They put their lives, their families, everything into these businesses, and we applaud them. It's like we applaud the search and rescue, the police, the teachers, the ones are out there who don't get paid anywhere near enough. We salute your sacrifice, and we salute the sacrifice that many families have made to get a business up and running and to stay running. So that's kind of, we want to be part of that. Yeah, kind of selfishly, we want to say, hey, we were part of their success. Our website brought in some business. Our website disseminated their content, their information, their why out to the people who need to hear it.
Yeah, that's amazing what you said. And it makes me think of so here in Mesa, one of the things that I really love about downtown Mesa, which I live near, is that our downtown isn't full of a bunch of chains or corporate stores. And so when you go into businesses, be they restaurants or antique shops or music shops or a bar or in downtown Mesa, chances are you're going to be able to meet the owner, and you're going to get to learn something about their life and their family, and build that relationship and exchange those conversations, which of course you can do with anyone in any business that you go into. But getting the opportunity to truly meet and intermingle with the people who this is their livelihood, like they built this business for a reason, to give something to the community and to be able to take care of their families. It's not necessarily about grandiose outcomes. So there's something really refreshing about that. So I can definitely understand, kind of taking some pride in being able to say we had a hand in that, with businesses like that. Yeah. So with that, talking about the why, you also you did share Simon Sinek's Start with Why having a big impact on you.
Yeah.
Is there anything specific from that book or approach or any other books or resources that have been really instrumental in shaping how you approach business?
It was actually a video. It was a TED talk from maybe even a decade ago now. It's quite an old recording, but you can see it
Yeah,
on
yeah.
YouTube. Start with Why by Simon Sinek,
Oh yeah,
Sinek.
I thought there was a book as well.
I'm
Did he not
sure
write a
I'm sure I'm
Okay.
sure there probably is, but I saw it as a YouTube video. That's
Awesome.
probably was
Awesome.
most instrumental in us kind of getting around to formulating the way we've set up our business model, because
Mhm.
people don't really care what you do, and they don't really care how you do it until they know why you do it. You know, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. It's kind of the same situation.
Yeah.
You know, if I say I sell or I make and sell blue widgets, people go, yeah, well, one day I might need a blue widget. And
Yeah.
if I say, well,
Yeah.
I make them this way, they go, well, that's interesting, but why? Why do you
Mhm.
get up in the morning? It was kind of like what we are talking about before, the why. Why do you get
Yeah.
up in the morning and make blue widgets this way, then sell them so that I can buy them? If they don't know the backstory, then there's a lot lost in the translation. You're just another blue widget seller. You're just another web designer. You're just another auto mechanic or a general contractor, or insert the business here.
Yeah. Yeah.
You, in today's market, Amanda, you must have a USP, a unique selling point, and this sort of came out of Simon's TED Talk. There are one or two other web designers just in surprise. Forget about Phoenix, forget about Arizona and the world. So I've
Yeah.
got a bunch of competition, or we've got a bunch of competition. And so we have to do the same thing with a different why and a different how. And if you don't, then you've really only got one thing to compete upon if no one knows you. Now, if your name is Adidas or Nike or Coke or something like
Mhm.
that, then you've
Yeah.
already got that
Yeah.
brand awareness. But for little old Citrus Kiwi Web Solutions that no one has ever heard of, we can only stand out basically on price. And everyone else is the same. If you haven't got massive brand awareness, or
Mhm.
you haven't been referred, then the only way you can compete is on price. And that's a really, really, really bad business model, because you're
Yeah.
never going to win. I'm never going to beat someone in the Philippines or in India doing the same job as I do, uh,
Yeah.
on price anyway. I will never beat
No,
them.
that's
So
very
I can't
Yeah.
compete.
No, that's really so what I'm hearing is your why is your story.
Hmm.
Your unique selling proposition is your how, right?
Hmm.
And your differentiator, but your why
Yeah.
is your story.
Yeah.
And if you're not going to compete on price, you're going to compete on story,
Hmm.
on how can I build a connection with this person, right? Or
Yeah.
how can this person be connected to our story and
Hmm.
therefore want to do business with us?
Yep.
And
And you
and
see it.
you
Sorry, carry on.
no, go ahead.
I was going to say, you see it now with woman-owned business, black-owned business, veteran-owned business, and that's part of their story, and that's what, whether they know it or not, they just
Mhm.
might think it's a good idea, but whether they know it or not, that is part of their story, and that is part of why, you know, if I saw two businesses and I couldn't determine between the two, and I knew one was a veteran and one wasn't, I'm probably going to pick the veteran out,
Yeah.
because I support those people who've sacrificed something to protect me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yes, you're
There
right. The backstory is important.
there's so many people in the world, and it's similar, if we go with the Nike example, right? You
Hmm.
have Nike, you have Reebok, you have Converse, you have I just saw K Swiss is making shoes still,
Hmm.
but which is really cool. And you have people out there who are like, I'm diehard Nike. That
Hmm.
I wear Nikes, so I almost don't even look at or look for other brands because I connect in some way with Nike, whether
Yep.
they helped me tell my story or whatever. And then you have other people who feel the same way about other things.
Yep.
And so I say that to say that there are so many people in the world. And, I think sometimes when we're early out in business, we can minimize or underappreciate how important our story actually is. But truly, there are going to be people who will connect with your story, and you got to kind of find your tribe. You have to find your community. And the way you're
Hmm.
going to draw people in is because they're going to see themselves in some way, shape, or form, right? For instance, you really focus on small business. There are people
Yes.
out there who are really staunchly small business people. Like for me, I
Hmm.
prefer to do business locally. I prefer to
Yep.
find someone
Yep.
local, right?
Hmm.
So that's a really, really good point. And it kind of speaks to a story that you shared, where your really expensive or ridiculously expensive coffee maker was
Hmm.
having a challenge, and you all needed to have a repair person come out.
Yes,
And your knack for connecting, you were actually able to turn that repair visit into a client.
I
um
was.
so what's your secret to making the most out of just everyday interactions and really connecting with folks?
Just just be bold. Just
Yeah.
ask the question. You know, one of the one of the packages we offer as an add-on to just the general basic web service is a review capture platform. So
Hmm.
people in business generally have they either have a really hard time getting reviews because they have a hard time asking for them, or they just
Yeah.
don't ask for them. So we
Yeah.
offer that as an extra, and I don't think we've done a good job in selling it because we don't have many clients using it because they see it's an extra, and oh, I don't want to do that. I can do it myself. The
But
problem
then
is
they
they
don't.
don't.
Yeah.
And this makes it so easy. It's a beautiful platform for trades and services because every one of their techs or every one of their salespeople have the ability as they're walking down the garden path. They've just sold Amanda a an HVAC maintenance plan,
Hmm.
and before they're out the front gate, they can be getting on their computer, on their phone rather, tablet, whatever it is, and sending the client a review request right there and then. And what's the most opportune time to ask for a referral?
Yeah.
When they've just given you a
Yeah.
check because they're really
Yeah.
excited and happy and they think you're the world's best thing since sliced bread. Now tomorrow
Yep.
it might all fall in the toilet, so tomorrow is a bad time to send a review request. You send it as you're walking away.
Yeah.
So yeah, you've just got to get out there. And for those who know that old Happy Wanderer song, I whistle a happy tune every single time. The happiness in the tune convinces me that I'm not afraid. So whistle a happy tune and ask for a referral, ask for the business.
Yeah. It's funny. When I was a sales manager, obviously one of my main tasks was listening to my sales reps, coaching and giving feedback. And so many times when someone was having a struggle, and Amanda, can you listen to a few of my calls? I really thought these were a couple of great conversations.
Hmm.
And so I'll turn it on in my office and walk around and listen. And there are a couple of things that I would very often hear. They were very
Right.
consistent. Number one, was sometimes really just not sharing and helping the homeowner understand what the problem is and that there is a problem. Because if there is no problem, then again, your solution is just going to be a price, right? It's just going to be a price. And the second, you didn't ask them to do business with you, right? And
exactly.
So that ask, or you didn't ask for referrals, right? Hey, for some reason, such and such is getting X number of referrals a month. And, I feel like I do a great job. And okay, well, let me listen to some of your calls. Hey, I listened to 5 of your calls. I haven't heard you ask for a referral once.
Exactly.
Oh, well, I send them an email later. Okay, well, later, they might be, 3 toddlers around their ankles, a dog trying to cook dinner, like you have their attention right now. Speak on that, right? And so that really is, it's true. You have to remember to do the basics, to do those things. Yeah. That's awesome. So with that, sometimes no matter what we do, no matter the connections that we make, sometimes things just go awry. And as business owners, we're often learning tough lessons, where, you try to avoid as many as you can, but sometimes you're just going to learn that lesson. And have there ever been any situations where you had to learn a tough lesson, around client relationships or running your business? And I'm always a fan of the term fail fast, right? Fail fast and get back up. So, what lessons have you learned, and how did you, kind of dust yourself off and get back up and move forward?
When I was probably pre-double digits in age, there was a company in New Zealand called LV Martin and Son, and they sold Fisher and Paykel appliances. So Fisher and Paykel was the big whiteware dealer in New Zealand. And their slogan was, "It's the putting right that counts." And anyone who expects perfection from another human being is going to be sadly disappointed. So you can expect that if you have enough business dealings, if you have enough relationships, if you go out on dates enough, someone or some people, plural, are going to disappoint you. It's how, one, you
and you're
react.
Disappointing others.
And many times. Many times. So it's how you react to being disappointed and how you react to being the disappointer. Now, I had a situation, it's happened a couple of times. I use authorize.net as my payment processor. And so I don't even have to do anything. Every couple of months or every 3 months, the client is automatically billed for the web services. And it's pretty bulletproof. Unfortunately, there are people involved, so it does fail sometimes. So a couple of times I haven't noticed that a client's payment profile has been suspended by authorize.net for non-payment. And for whatever reason, I missed the email, or the email got lost, or whatever. I never got it. And then about once or twice a year, I'll do an audit, and I'll always find 1, maybe 2 that are hanging there in the wind. So I had a case where it was a couple of years ago, and I found, I think, about 5. And so I wrote to them all, said, you haven't paid since, blah, blah, blah. The last successful one was this particular date. And go to this URL, enter your new information, and then tonight it'll take out the first one. And what I didn't realize is it would keep doing it night after night to catch up until it had caught up. So if you were 3 payments behind, it would do tonight, tomorrow night, and the next night. So I then encountered some very angry clients because I billed them last night and the next night and the next night.
Oh, no.
Now, they owed me, well, they owed us the money. So I'm not quite sure why they were upset that I actually wanted to take my money from them. But I hadn't told them because I didn't realize either that this is how Authorize.net handled it.
Yeah.
So I could have just said, well, suck it up, buttercup. You did owe me the money. You didn't tell me you weren't paying me. You didn't know you weren't paying me. So, there's a bit of blame to be shared all around. What I did is I went to every client and I said, here's one installment back. So an installment is 3 months. So I said, here's 3 months. And I refunded them 1 3-monthly payment, not because I felt morally or legally required to do so, but morally I felt I'd kind of let them down, and that was my way of saying, hey, I'm sorry. You did actually owe me the money.
Just because of the communication breakdown.
Yep. So that was, kind of an awkward and financially frustrating time for everyone. But that's the way we like to do business. We like to do under promise and over deliver, essentially.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I think at least what I find is that ultimately, if you do what you feel is the right thing, and, sometimes it might hurt a little, but ultimately it seems like it comes back tenfold. And you're able to let it go.
Yeah.
Also,
yep.
You're not dealing with and living in that frustration. I was recently in a situation where, there was a situation that could have gone back and forth. But it kind of went to me, and I just said, okay, cool.
Deal with it.
We'll do it. We'll do it your way. Because I was just like, I really don't have the bandwidth to go back and forth with you on this. And the opportunity cost to me is going to be too high. So the peace of mind that you gain, and I think, goodness, like as a small business owner, peace of mind is just a precious commodity. Like you got to protect that at all costs. And knowing that, so peace of mind is one of the things that does keep small business owners up at night, or not peace of mind, but the things that steal your peace of mind, right? Lack of it. So you're focused on supporting small business. You're passionate about what you do, your wife and yourself. What keeps you up at night when it comes to Citrus Kiwi and the small business landscape, maybe in general? What are the things that maybe nag at you, or that you think about sometimes?
I wouldn't say there's any specific thing that's an ongoing thing. I'm always very concerned for my clients. So, and my wife will probably tell you there's times I tend to put them a little bit before ourselves in many respects. But that's just a general sort of thing that I feel every day. I take this as a big responsibility. This is not just because we're so invested in our clients and the way we have set up our business model. I don't just design a website and there you go. We are we're very invested in their
it's a partnership
success. It is a partnership
that you build with every client of yours is a partnership.
But the things that'll keep me up at night is if I goof something up. And I've done it a couple of times. Email is a wonderfully easy thing to mess up. And I remember one client in particular, he's still with us, so he still loves us. But we broke his email for 2 or 3 days, and I just felt sick that I'd made such a newbie mistake, and I should have just slowed down. We were under a bit of a time crunch, but I just wasn't crossing every T and dotting every I, and then suddenly he says, "Where's my email?" And I'd totally broken it.
Yeah.
We got it going again, and like I said, he's still with us. But that's the sort of thing that just makes me feel, sick.
It's just like one of those somewhat avoidable challenges, right?
Totally avoidable challenge if I just
Yeah.
taken time and I just, I think I mentioned I'm a pilot as well
Uh-huh.
as a web designer, and we have checklists for everything for the simple fact is we cannot memorize everything and do it exactly from memory. So before
Yeah.
we get in the plane, we go doing a walk around and make sure everything's okay. And when we get in the plane, we do a walk around the cockpit before we start the plane. And there's a checklist for doing everything. And
Yeah.
that's something we need to, I admit I do a lot from memory now in this business because I've been going for since 2009. But there are certain things you've just got to have a checklist you can check off and say, I've done this, I've done that, I've done, oh, and I've
Yeah.
forgotten that one. I need to get onto that.
It's funny. So there's an old saying that was shared with me. I've never played baseball or softball. Those weren't sports that I played, but one of my mentors did, and his boys did, and we would talk about kind of the correlation between sports and sales or business at times.
Mm-hmm.
And he would always ask the question, well, okay, so what does an all-star hitter do when they are getting into a slump, or they're not they're not hitting at the same level that they need to be?
Yep.
He's like, they'll go and hit 500 balls off of a tee, or go
Mm-hmm.
to the batting cages, right?
Mm-hmm.
You go back to basics. And
Yeah.
I've often had really or even myself, right? I've often You get into that groove, and you get into autopilot, and just because we're on autopilot doesn't mean we're autopiloting all of the right steps, right? We can
Yep.
get on
Yep.
autopilot and be missing steps. And so, it's funny because I have checklists for myself for things that I do every day.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, okay, I think that automation is right. Let's go through and make sure, okay, is it firing
Sure.
here? Is it putting the document in the right spot? Is it naming the document correctly? Okay,
Yep.
and it's really easy to when you're a professional to get into the place of, well, I'm a professional, I don't need that. But
Mm-hmm.
we're not robots, we are humans.
No.
And
Yep.
so, to your point, sometimes just bust out the checklist and
Mm-hmm.
make sure that that we've got it all. As
Yeah.
because sometimes when you I know that, I know
Mm-hmm.
that thing, and that's kind of always feels a little like silly, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you're like, I know it.
Yeah.
So what about, so you've been in this business since 2009, but
Yep.
before that you were in architectural design back
I
in New
was.
Zealand for
Mm-hmm.
a number of years. You're
I,
also a pilot.
yes. Yeah, I ran my own architectural practice for 15 years back in New Zealand. They were moving towards the good old American boy model of suing people. And they got very litigious towards the whole construction industry. About the time I was
Mm.
leaving, I was actually involved in 4 lawsuits, three of which
In
I
New
walked
Zealand?
in New Zealand, three
Oh,
of which I
wow.
walked away from. The fourth one, I don't believe I should have been, but it was kind of the architect was the last person standing, them and the
Mm.
city who had approved the plans, and so they were the ones that generally got sued. So the general contractor and the
Hmm.
roofer and that, they've made a new company at the beginning of every year, so you can't sue one that's now defunct. So the last one I got found quite
I
liable.
guess that's a strategy.
Yeah, it's not a good business
No, that's
person
terrible.
strategy. It's a nasty,
Mm-mm.
horrible business person strategy. I had insurance that
Yeah.
covered it, so I walked away pretty much not out of pocket at all, but I was done with that. But
Yeah.
I like the creativity. So when I was looking for a new career, I'd already been designing websites back in New Zealand, particularly for my architectural practice. So I thought, that's a good avenue. I already know it. So Yeah, that's how
nice. Like, so, well, sorry. Go ahead, Ian. I didn't mean
That's
to.
right.
You
No,
you
no,
got you got me
I was
thinking.
done. I was done. Go for it.
Well, I was gonna say, so you've done a lot, right? You've got a lot
Hmm.
of experience in business ownership and in the working world. And there are some folks out there who are maybe thinking about building something of their own.
Hmm.
And my question to you would be, what advice would you give to your younger self to help
Mm.
navigate the challenges that were going to arise in your entrepreneurship journey?
I think I'm actually pretty happy with what I did. My
Nice.
biggest working regret was nothing to do with owning my own business. It was an apprenticeship I was offered at 17 as an aircraft mechanic.
Mm-hmm.
And I turned it down because it was 5 years old and I couldn't believe what life I would have left at the end of it at the old age of 22. So I turned it down and I regret it because they would have taught me to fly. It wouldn't have cost me a
Yeah.
dime to learn to fly.
Yeah. Well, the
Um,
pilot's license isn't cheap.
Pilot's licenses are not cheap. They're not as expensive as a 3 or 4 year college degree, but yeah, they're not cheap.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But certainly something I would like myself to know, which is probably something I found out along the way, and I would certainly say to budding entrepreneurs of whatever age they are, is don't go in leveraging yourself financially. Make sure you've got a good chunk of cash that's going to set your business up.
Mm-hmm.
The first couple of years, particularly, are tough financially in most cases. And if you've got big overheads for debt
Yeah.
servicing, it's going to kill you.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't, it's going to give you so many sleepless nights and bad relationships that you just don't want to go there. So that would
Yeah.
be
There's
number
that peace of
one.
mind.
No peace of mind in that case.
Yeah.
Secondly, don't try and wear too many hats. That's probably something, if I was going to tell my younger self, I would tell my younger self. Don't try and be the accountant. Don't try and be the bookkeeper and the legal team and the HR and the worker and everything else. You're running a business and you may have to be the worker to begin with, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
certainly important things like accounting, bookkeeping, and legal, those are things you actually can't afford not to do.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, no, back up there. You can't afford to do, to not to farm out to
Yeah.
professionals who do it for a living. And
Yeah.
I say the same thing to people who, are trying to do their own website. And that's why we set up the business model the way we did, because everyone can now afford one. But they say, oh, well, I didn't want to pay $1,000, so I did it myself on Wix, Google Sites or GoDaddy or something. And they may look good websites, but they don't work well because they don't know what they don't know. Same deal with all the other things. You can't afford to try and do everything because you'll actually end up costing yourself a lot more in the long run.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've got sayings on sayings on sayings, but the one that comes to mind just now is, it's only cheaper if you only have to buy it once.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
if you're, if the thought is, well, I'm doing it this way because it's less expensive, and then it doesn't work, the site can't, say in websites, it can't be crawled as well, or it's not,
Mm-hmm.
able to connect with the different integrations for, the rest of your site, depending on, or the rest of your business, depending on the
Yep.
type of business that you're in. Well, then you've paid and spent the time. So you
Mm-hmm.
have to think of your time as a cost as well, right?
Yeah.
And then you're going to pay someone to do it anyways.
Exactly. Because it failed
So
miserably the way you did it. Yeah.
yeah, so it's like, it wasn't actually less expensive, it was actually more expensive
In the
um
long run. Yeah. And
in the
aggravating.
long run.
Again,
Yeah, and
lack of peace of
peace of
mind.
mind.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yep. That is phenomenal advice. You know, I totally agree. It took me a little while to learn that I can't do everything. Particularly, there are a few things that I think what I've seen, small business entrepreneurs, people starting out, you know, think that insurance is kind of a luxury cost, or bookkeeping, or legal. I mean, there are even legal services out there where you can be on, you know, if you're not a big old business but you might need someone to look over a contract. And, you know, if you're not familiar with legalese, you might end up putting yourself in a bad position because you didn't have that, you know. So it might be $100 a month or whatever it might be, but you have someone to be able. And so, you know, those costs that seem like luxury costs, it's not, right. They're actually important things that you need. And goodness, Ian, I knew this was going to be a great conversation, but it was a phenomenal conversation, and I'm so grateful to have had you spend some time talking with me here. And I'm so excited to hear what our viewers and listeners out there think. You know, make sure that, you know, we're talking about and sharing the great restaurants here in Arizona.
Absolutely.
That's definitely a list that we want to continue to build. And as you're on your entrepreneurship journey, you know, start with why. Make sure that you're protecting your peace of mind, and think about those non-negotiables in your business. And join us next time on Hustles and Haboobs. We'll see you then. Bye-bye. All right. Let's see.